This tape was made on February 17th, 1981. We are at the home of Martin Paulsens in Withee. Martin was caretaker at the Riverside Cemetery for 50 years and will tell us some interesting facts about this beautiful cemetery.
I was born in 1905 in Chicago. My father, Paul, and mother, Martina, were born in Denmark. We came to Withee in 1909 and settled a half a mile north of the Riverside Cemetery. I attended the Frenchtown School and worked on the farm. At the age of 19, in 1924, I started working as a caretaker at the Riverside Cemetery and worked there for 50 years, retiring in 1974. The cemetery was started in 1903. Some of the first burials were Walter Smith in 1903 and also a little 12-year-old Verna, a daughter of the Bulls, in 1903. It is said that she fell from a haymow and was killed. There was graves moved in from Longwood Cemetery. Mr. Krieger died in 1895. He was the owner of the farm that became known during World War I. Some of the earlier burials were 4 children who died of scarlet fever and were buried in the woods across from the cemetery. Earlier, a sawmill was located near the river west of the cemetery. Many houses around the sawmill formed a little settlement. Alfred Defner Vestal, whose brother Felix ran the hotel, was born in this settlement. It is said that Mrs. Vestal is buried not more than 20 feet from where she was born. The charcoal kilns were located in the new east part of the cemetery. The first 2 workers in the cemetery were the Gibson boys, Clifford and Ivo. They lived just west of the cemetery. Grass was cut by hand size and later with a mower pulled by one horse. Headstones came from Withee by train and were hauled by horses to the cemetery. In 1930, stumps were cleared on the west side by oxen driven by a Mr. Collier. The oxen were owned by the Clark County Farm. The east end of the Pleasant Cemetery was a farm owned by Mr. Fairhelm. The new east part was laid out in 1952. The first fence around the cemetery was woven wire and a steel gate. In the 1920s, the stone main gates were installed and steel fences were put in place by Hans Paulsen. Hans Paulsen was grave digger from about 1931 until he moved to Perkinstown in 1959. Memorial Day service have been held there 50 years as I worked there. Groups of veterans and Boys and Girl Scouts and Owen and Withee band marched and played speeches, and pastors gave the Memorial Day address. Minus Munson, a veteran of the World War I, has marched in these parades until the present. Mr. and Mr. Bernard Tufts donated a large memorial monument in 1961 to the veterans of foreign wars. Burnett was the son of Dan Tufts, an earlier settler of Withee. John Tufts was a Spanish-American War veteran. Each Memorial Day, the American Legion furnished small flags for each veteran grave. The Moody is one of the Civil War veterans buried in 1911 at Riverside. His large brick home still stands on the west side of 73 and 29 interchange, south of Withee.
Thank you very much, Martin, for these interesting facts.